Today I'm going to show you guys how to remove the gauge cluster from your E30. So one of the first things we want to do that will make this much easier but is not necessarily required is to remove the steering wheel. First we'll remove the cap with a small flathead screwdriver and then remove the nut, which is a 22mm. Just as a reminder, put the key in the ignition and turn it to the first click on the ignition. That will release the lock and allow you to remove the steering wheel. The next step is to remove the knee bolster or trim panel, which is typically found right underneath the dashboard. So the next step is to reach underneath and feel for these metal thumb screws, which we're going to turn counterclockwise and remove. Here's a close-up of what those thumb screws look like. Now there's two, one on each side. Now that both of our thumb screws are removed, we'll take a flathead and carefully pry this panel out. Alright, so our next step is to remove this trim piece or bezel that is blocking the cluster from coming out. There are 6 screws that hold this down. Let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and they're all Phillips head screws. So we will remove those next. Now we're just going to pull this trim piece out now that all 6 screws have been removed. And then we'll remove these 2 Phillips on the ears of the cluster, one here and one here. Now, before we can remove the cluster completely from the dashboard, we have to remove several different plugs. We'll take our flathead screwdriver and carefully pry up the release clips. Then we'll just grab on, wiggle it until the plug pops out. There's another one here. So here's the view that we're left with now that the cluster has been completely removed from the car.